Hi, my name's Connor Nolan. I am the Special Events Director for Student Union Board and a member of Committee on Lectures. I'm proud to introduce our speaker for tonight, Christian Lander. He's the creator of a wildly popular blog, Stuff White People Like, which hilariously catalogs the unique taste of millions. He started the blog in January 2008 while working at an interactive ad agency in California. The site got over 20 million hits in the first 3 months and caught the attention of Random House Publishing. They released a book of the same name in July 2008. Christian Lander continues his satiric ethnography of white culture in his sequel to Stuff White People Like called Whiter Shades of Pale, which was released in November of last year. He's been featured in many publications, including the New York Times, and appeared on Lopez Tonight and many other shows. Christian Lander has a master's in literature from the University of Arizona, and he's currently working as a television writer in Los Angeles. He's a great guy, and we're thrilled to have him here tonight. Please join me in welcoming Christian Lander.
Oh, thanks everybody for coming out tonight. It should be an interesting night, to say the least. So what I'm going to do tonight is there's sort of two parts to my talk. The first is I tell you the story of Stuff White People Like, how it happened, the sort of wild ride. And then after that, there's a little bit more of an intelligent conversation about, some of the issues that are raised by this book and this blog. And so before I get started, for those of you unfamiliar with Stuff White People Like, I should let you know that when I say white people, I'm talking about a very specific type of white people. You're probably going to be able to guess what type of white people when I run through some of the entries from the book. So here's some things white people like. Coffee, religions their parents don't belong to. Diversity, organic food. Nonprofit organizations, gifted children, public radio, having two last names, awareness, the idea of soccer, expensive sandwiches, the Toyota Prius, bicycles, standing still at concerts, gentrification, threatening to move to Canada, musical comedy, hating corporations, bad memories of high school, and shorts. So I'd have a feeling you can probably guess the type of white people I'm talking about. And of course, they enjoy Apple products. And again, I was suckered in today. The iPad 2 came out, which is a nice reminder that I don't have any free will left anymore. So these are the white people that I'm talking about. So when I say white people, I think you have a pretty good idea of who I'm discussing. So the story of Stuff White People Like starts in January 2008, specifically January 18th, 2008. I was working as a copywriter in an interactive ad agency in Culver City, California. And on that day, I was talking to my friend Miles over the internet. Now, Miles is Filipino. This is particularly interesting for a couple of reasons. The site has an entry that says white people like Asian women. And Miles wrote that entry. He is Filipino, so he has a pass on it. And on this day, Miles told me that he didn't trust any white person who did not watch the TV show The Wire. And it made complete sense to me. They don't understand what's happening in Baltimore. How could you trust these people? And we tried to decide, well, what are they doing instead of watching The Wire? We threw back and forth on some ideas. We said, they're doing yoga, they're going to therapy, they're getting divorced. And I literally said, that's it, it's blog time. Those are the exact words that I used. And I went to WordPress.com, like literally millions of other people do, every single day. And I typed in exactly what it was we were talking about. stuffwhitepeoplelike.wordpress.com, and started writing. And the goal, just as important to remember here, was just to entertain my friends, to make them laugh. And so I don't know if in the first couple weeks, if it was an intense amount of self-loathing or an outward dislike for my fellow white man, but I wrote a lot really, really quickly. And I had all these ideas coming out, coffee, religions their parents don't belong to, assists, things like that. And I kept writing. And it was funny, in these early days, WordPress would let you keep track of where your traffic was coming from. And for these first couple weeks, we were getting about 150 hits a day, and most of them were actually misguided searches for organic fair trade coffee. Traffic's traffic. I'm not going to turn it away. But it did lead to some interesting Google searches. So I have an entry in there saying that white people like kitchen gadgets. And specifically, I say that they spend their entire lives trying to get a KitchenAid stand mixer to match the color of their kitchen. And I guess someone typed into Google, where can I find a KitchenAid stand mixer to match my kitchen? And it came to my site. And he got really angry and he wrote in. He was like, I was looking for a green KitchenAid stand mixer to match my kitchen when I came across your horribly offensive website. P.S. Where can I get a green KitchenAid stand mixer? Send him to Williams-Sonoma, fan for life. So things were going good. It was sort of goofy hits, 25, 26 entries in. I think to myself, I think I have something here that's actually funny. I think this is worth sending to more people than just these 3 guys. So I said, I'm going to send this website out to all of my friends. So on this day, about 2.5 weeks in, I composed an email to 25 people, the sum total of my friends, and told them to look at my website. And now, from there, you'd think that, at least one of these friends had a real connection or was powerful in some way. Nothing could be further from the truth. These are literally the least powerful 25 people in the world. We're talking about graduate students, Canadians, right? People with no power or influence in this world whatsoever. But miraculously, somehow from this initial 25, they sent it to their friends, who then sent it to their friends, this old story. And all of a sudden, the traffic jumps from 150 hits a day to 1,000 hits a day. And like I said, I was working in an ad agency, and I was a copywriter, and I sat next to an account executive. And I go, hey, I'm running this website, I'm getting 1,000 hits a day. And he looks at me, he's like, 1,000 hits a day? Man, you need to run some ads on that site. You can make $60 a month. I was like, what, really? First thing I'm thinking, good white person, I'm like, that's a sushi dinner. Yeah, let's, what do I need to do to make this happen? He's like, just register the domain and, pay for the hosting yourself. I'm like, all right, done. So I registered stuffwhitepeoplelike.com and stuffwhitepeoplelike.org because I was under the impression that to have a .org address, you needed to be a nonprofit organization. And I love the idea of people thinking that we were a nonprofit organization for the study of white people. Though we were a for-profit organization for the study of white people. And I signed up for the cheapest hosting I could find and sent it out into the world. There it was. Stuffwhitepeoplelike.wordpress.com was now just stuffwhitepeoplelike.com. And on the day that happened, unbelievably, of that seed from those original 25 people, the thing bounced around the internet and it made its way to the blog for Good Magazine, which is Al Gore's son's magazine. Shocking, I know. And Comedy Central. And from there, the 1,000 hits a day became 30,000 hits. And I was freaking out. This was amazing. So I go to the site to see what comments people are leaving, and the site's black. It's completely down. And I'm freaking out because I'm like, oh my God, I made a blip on internet culture and my site is not working? This is unbelievable. I need to call my service provider. So I call up my ISP, and I'm just the angriest I've ever been in my entire life. You know what I mean? Like, no, you listen. I'm not paying you people $4.99 a month for this site not to work. Fix this. Like, whoa, Mr. Lander, calm down here. Let me just see what's going on here. Oh, yeah, you completely violated your terms of service. What are you running, like an e-commerce site here or something? No, it's just a WordPress blog. They're like, is it? I'm like, yeah, it's a WordPress blog. They're like, really, what's it about? I'm like, well, it's just, stock pictures of white people. And they go, all right, sir, I think I know where this is heading. Listen, if you want to get your site back and running, this white porno site, whatever it is that you're running, it's going to be about $400 a month. And I'm like, I never even got the 60 I was promised. I can't do that. And they're like, not my problem. So I put it back onto WordPress where I could run no ads, but the site would stay up. So the dream of the sushi dinner right now is gone forever. But I'm like, I've done it. You know what I mean? 30,000 hits. I've made this little blip on the culture of the internet. This is amazing. So I go home that night, wake up the next morning, 30,000 hits, then becomes 60,000 hits. Like, wow, that's interesting. Next day, it's 120,000 hits. And I get a call. They want to interview me for NPR and the New York Times and the LA Times and the Toronto Star. And I'm starting to freak out a little bit. The next day, 200,000, then 300,000. Then I look at the WordPress rankings, and the site is beating CNN. So it was getting really big really quickly. This, again, February 2008, 400,000 hits a day. And I'm freaking out. This is incredible. I'm doing all these interviews, and I'm getting the attention of book publishers and book agents, and it's literally been my dream to have a book. I mean, I was in grad school for 4 years, and I'd always dreamt about writing a book, but I'd secretly dreamt about writing a book that people would read. For those of you in grad school, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I couldn't believe it. They really wanted to turn my little blog into a book, and I was freaking out. And so agents started contacting me. And then at the end of February, Hollywood agents started contacting me. Now, you've got to understand, in Los Angeles, there are 5 major talent agencies, and you literally can spend a lifetime of trying to get these people to notice you and represent you and bring you into their world. And all of a sudden, by the end of February, 5 agencies in town, William Morris, Endeavor, CAA, ICM, and UTA. The end of that month, 4 of the 5 said they wanted to take me on as a client, and the 5th one called 2 weeks too late. So literally, all of the dreams that I'd had from moving to Los Angeles are taking place at the end of February. And so I'm taking all these calls from agents. And they're like, yeah, come on up to Beverly Hills and meet with us. And I'm like, oh all right, yeah, let's do this. So it's set. March 1st, 2008, I'm going to go to Beverly Hills and meet with the talent agents. And what was interesting was, as I'm setting these meetings, they're like, okay, you're just going to come up here and you're going to valet your car. Here's where the problem is. Though I live in Los Angeles, I technically don't drive. I ride a bicycle, a fixed gear bicycle, if that surprises any of you who know what one of those are. And I take the bus in Los Angeles. And now, I don't know if you know this about LA, but there are really only two types of white men that ride the bus in Los Angeles. One are confused European tourists. Oh, yeah, Hollywood, yeah, right? But truthfully, my shoes aren't nice enough and I'm not thin enough to be mistaken for European. And the other type of white man who rides the bus in Los Angeles is a man with a DUI. And so every time I would get on these buses, people would just look at me and be like, what have you done? And I'd be like, no, I'm just Canadian. They're like, yeah, right, drunkie. And so that's how I got around. So they're trying to set these meetings. And they go, okay, so when you come up here, you're going to valet your car. And I go, no, that's not going to be a problem. I'm biking. They're like, all right, you're going to valet your motorcycle. And I go, no, I'm bicycling to the meeting. And they go, all right, very funny. White people like bicycles. See you then. Don't forget to valet your car. Bye-bye. Click. And they hung up. Refused to believe that I could actually bicycle to Beverly Hills to meet the agency. So the day comes, March 1st. I get on my fixie, and I ride. And the first place I go is CAA. Now, CAA's building in Los Angeles is known as the Death Star. It is the most intimidating place you've ever been in your life. So here I am, riding up on my fixie, and I get there, and it's on a street called Avenue of the Stars. I'm not even kidding. And they have this long circular driveway. So I'm biking up on my fixie around the circular driveway, and I'm going around like Bentleys and Maybachs, and I'm like, oh, please don't scratch one of these. Please don't scratch one of these. And I get to the top of the circle, and there's no bike parking. And I look over, and I see the valet, and I think to myself, can I do this? Can I take the key to my kryptonite lock and say, I'll be back in 10 minutes, don't scratch it, asshole, and then walk right into CAA? And you got to understand, part of me is like, I'll be the guy forever who valeted a bike at CAA. But the other part of me just looks at this miserable valet who's just got the horrible, and he probably doesn't know how to ride a fixie. He's going to get confused. So I'm like, I'm going to bring it inside. So I lift the bike up on the shoulder, and I walk into the most shallow agency in the most shallow part of town, in the most shallow industry, with a bike helmet, a backpack, and a fixie over my shoulder. And I get up to the front desk, and before I can open my mouth, the receptionist looks at me and just goes, oh my God, you weren't kidding. And they treated me like I was Jesus coming back. They were like, you really biked here. And I'm doing this because I'm sweating. And I'm like, yeah, I biked here. They're like, that is so great. I'm like, good, because this BO is your problem now. And they couldn't believe it. And so I had my first meeting, and it went really well. And then I went to my next meeting, and it went well. And then the last meeting of the day was William Morris. And William Morris was not nearly as intimidating as CAA from the outside. So I pull up. I found a parking meter. I lock my bike up, no problem. And I walk in, still helmet, still sweaty, still backpack. And I get in. The way it's laid out is when you walk in, there's a receptionist here, and then there's a waiting area. You know what I mean? Like right over there. So receptionist, waiting area. And I walk in, and I look to my right, and I basically see my mortal enemies waiting for me. Taller men. This is a long-standing belief of mine that men who are taller than me have had an easier life than me in everything. School, women, sports. It doesn't matter. It's been better. And for every inch taller I would have been, my life would have been 30% better. Things have worked out great at a driver's license 5'9", which is a real life 5'8". But these guys, I already know, they're my mortal enemies. Well, no, sorry. White people with dreadlocks are my mortal enemies, followed shortly by taller men. And I look at them, and everything about them, these are the guys that held my head in the toilet in high school. You know what I mean? I just see them. I look at their shoes, and they're pointy. I don't know why this bothers me, but they have pointy shoes because I can't pull off pointy shoes. And then I look further up at their long legs, and they have pre-faded jeans on. You know what I mean? And then you go further up on their body, and this was 2008, and they have Ed Hardy shirts on. You know what I mean? Or Affliction, whatever. And then they have a sport jacket on top of it that fits them perfectly, and the sport jacket has a dragon on the side. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, oh no, these guys are actors. You can see their abs sticking through their t-shirts. And then I go further up at their face, and this is where it hurt the most. And I see their face, and here's the problem. As a hipster guy with a beard, the first thing I do when I meet another man with a beard is judge his beard against my beard to see who has the stronger facial hair. And I have weaknesses. I admit them. I cannot grow facial hair here, and I have a split in the middle that causes me to look like a matador, or like a silent film star, right? Not these guys. It was like a putting green. Everything was filled in, and every hair was the same length, and I was like, oh, crap. And then you move further up their hair, and they have actor hair, which is wet and messy, but perfect at the same time, And I'm like, oh, my God. So I'm freaked out. So I go up to the front desk, and I say, hi, I'm Christian. I'm here to meet with Alec and Blake. And they go, oh, yeah, Christian, we've been expecting you. Take a seat. I'm like, over there? And they're like, yeah, it's the only waiting area we have. And I'm like, okay. So I go over there, like going into the hornet's nest here, and I sit down, and I'm sweating, and I'm wearing a helmet, and I have a backpack, and there's these guys, and I'm just freaked out, and I don't like these guys, but at the same time, I really want them to like me so badly. So I just sit down, and I go, what's up, right? I'd be like, what else am I going to do in one of those scenarios? And I'm not kidding, they give me one of these. Nothing. And I'm like, oh, my God, what am I doing here? This is a huge mistake. And then an assistant comes down and says, Christian, Dan and Blake are ready to see you now. Now, I don't know if you know this about Los Angeles, but the amount of time you wait to see an agent is directly proportional to how important you are, at least on this one day. And do you remember how I said when I got in, they were already waiting? So when I stood up, the look on their face changed. They were like, oh, crap. Who is this weird little man, and what have we done to offend him? And it was the greatest moment of my entire life. To date, it is my only victory over a man who is taller than me. It was like I dunked on all of them at once. It was amazing. A total and complete victory. It was incredible. So I had my meeting. And again, March 1st, 2008. This is how fast it's all happening. And the meeting went well. And I had an agent. And then, we went around. We got a book deal in place at the end of March 2008. So March 31st, 2008, book deal in place. Uncoincidentally, also the day I quit my job. That was awesome. And Random House is like, can you finish a book in 30 days? And I'm like, yeah, no footnotes, no problem. So I go home, and I write the second half of the book, and I hand in a rough manuscript to them, a first draft of a manuscript, on May 1st, 2008. And then we spend the rest of the month going back and forth adding these little extra features to the first book. Things like what's in that canvas grocery bag, and a flowchart, how to name a white child, and a whiteness test at the back of the book. So we're adding all these little fun extra charts and things like that, and hand in a final completed manuscript on June 1st, 2008. The book is published July 1st, 2008. The book is a New York Times bestseller on July 14th, 2008. 6 months. 6 months from literally dicking around on the internet with my friend Miles to the New York Times bestseller list. And the whole time it's going up. The whole time all this is happening, I keep saying to myself, this literally can't get any bigger. This can't get any bigger. And every day it kept getting bigger. And I'm like, New York Times bestseller, done. Can't possibly get any bigger than this. And then in August, it got bigger. Random House got a call, and then they called me, and they said, Christian, Conan O'Brien would like to have you as a guest on the show. I freaked out. This was a huge deal to me. Yes, I know Conan O'Brien is taller than me, but he gets a pass because he has red hair. He knows the pain we went through as children. For the record, we both have souls. And we did not appreciate the rhymes about the color of our pubic hair. So he gets a pass. So I am thrilled. I'm really going to be a guest on Conan O'Brien. This is really going to happen. The NBC Conan O'Brien, Late Night with Conan O'Brien. And I did what anyone else would do. They give you the date. You're going to be on Conan O'Brien, September 6th, 2008. And I'm freaking out. And so I went to the NBC website, and every day I hit refresh 1,000 times to find out who the other guests were going to be, because it's a Friday show. It could be any celebrity, and I could get to meet them. Refresh. Finally, it comes back. The celebrity that day is the actor Jerry O'Connell. This is a huge deal for me. For those of you who don't know him, he had his dick bitten off in Piranha 3D last summer. But more importantly, to me, he was in a movie called Stand By Me in 1989. One of the best movies of all time. Even more important than that, in that movie, he was a fat kid. He wasn't playing a fat kid. He was legitimately a fat kid. I was a fat kid. Jerry O'Connell grew up to marry a swimsuit model. He is literally a hero to fat kids across the world. that you can be a fat kid at 13 and the husband of a supermodel at 28. So I am thrilled to meet my fat kid hero. Apparently Russell Brand was also a fat kid. So I have another fat kid hero that I want to meet. So I am thrilled that I'm going to get to meet my fat kid hero. And he was on a Canadian TV show that I watched when I was growing up called My Secret Identity. Like, I am freaking out. This is about as big a celebrity as it gets for me. And the other guest was Tim Gunn from Project Runway. So I'm just like, I'm so thrilled about this. So I get to New York, and it's my opportunity, and I'm in my dressing room, when you're the third guest on Conan, it's a pretty small dressing room. And I just remember waiting in there, and I'm waiting, and in front of me was a plate of cookies. And I remember looking at those cookies thinking to myself, don't eat them, you're going to throw up. Don't eat them, you're going to throw up. But, fat kid instinct, right? I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And so I'm just sitting there with my own thoughts. And I've never been on one of these shows before. I don't know the rules. I don't know what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. But I do know that my fat kid hero is across the hall. And I'm like, is it okay to just go over there and talk to him? Am I allowed to do that? But then I have this nightmare in my head that I'm going to go over there and panic and be like, hey, Jerry, hey, do you remember when you were a fat kid? And then he's going to go on the show and be like, yeah, Conan, there's a guy backstage who's really obsessed with fat children. You should probably call security immediately. And I'm like, okay, don't do it. Just do what your Little League coach did. If you ever hit a home run, and that is act like you've been there before. I didn't hit a home run, but the advice still stood. And so I'm like, I'm just going to wait in here. I'm just going to play it cool. And my agent is with me. Now, my agent kind of looks like me, except he's this tall. So I know I can trust him. And, he's like, you're going to be fine, man. Don't worry. You are going to be fine. I like how I'm acting like I'm 6'8". You know what I mean? He's like, you're going to be fine, man. You giant of a man. And he's like, you're going to be fine. I'm like, okay. And I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, man, I really wish I could have talked to Jerry. And there's a knock at my door. And I look over. And it's Jerry O'Connell. And he points at my agent. He's like, are you the guy who stuff white people like guy? You the stuff white people like guy? My agent just points up at me. And I'm about to open my mouth to say how great he was in the TV show Sliders. When he goes, oh my God, I read that website all the time. Everything right in there is so funny. I'm trying to get one thing. I'm like, she's like, oh, it's so funny. Everything in there, it's great. It's so true. I was trying to get one word. He's like, listen, man, stick around after the show. There's a couple people I want you to meet. I got to go. Bye. He's gone. I'm just freaking out. Look at my agent. I'm like, I think I just met Jerry O'Connell. And he's like, yeah, and I think he liked you a lot. Yes. So Jerry goes out there. He's hilarious. He's awesome. He's so funny. And Tim Gunn goes out there, whatever. And then... And now it's my turn. So everything I tell you from this point on is replayed from the TiVo episode I have stored because I blacked out the entire time I was on stage. I remember walking out there and walking off. And so I get out there. Now, the layout is Conan is here, right? I'm here. Tim Gunn's here. And Jerry O'Connell's on the end. So just get that layout set in your head. So I get out there. You know what I mean? I'm calming down. Conan asks me questions like, well, Christian, so what are some things white people like? I go with an old standby. I'm like, well, farmers markets. Right? And he's like, yeah, I guess we do like farmers markets. Tim Gunn's like him, I suppose. Jerry O'Connell, oh my God! Oh, that's where I buy carrots. I was just freaking out, right? And then, and I'm like, oh, all right, okay. And then Conan's like, well, Christian, Tim Gunn is on the show tonight. I'm like, yeah, I know. And he's like, so what are some clothes that white people like? And I'm about to open my mouth, right? And I'm wearing a cardigan at the time, as I want to do. And I'm about to open my mouth, and I feel a hand on my arm. And I look over. And Jerry O'Connell has reached over Tim Gunn and is pinching my arm, going, sweaters! Say sweaters! White people like sweaters! Now, realistically, right, you want to believe that you're the cool guy who's going to be like, look at your fat kid hero reaching over a reality television superstar and just be like, yeah, Conan, Jerry's right. We love sweaters, right? No, that's not me. Instead, you just see me like this. Shorts? Tim Gunn's like, I guess. Jerry's like, ah! We wear them too early. And he's dying on stage. And I'm like, wow, this interview's going great. They look at Tim Gunn, and I'm like, oh, maybe not that great. And so, the show ends, and I go backstage, and I'm just like, oh my God, I was just a guest on Conan O'Brien. Man, I really need to call some ex-girlfriends. Because it doesn't matter what field you endeavor to succeed in, nothing will drive you more than shoving it in the face of ex-girlfriends. So I'm trying to get, remember her phone number. When I hear, Christian! I'm like, huh? All right. I turn around. It's Jerry O'Connell. And he goes, here's those people I want you to meet. I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, it's my parents. And I'm just looking at him like, Jerry, I don't know if our relationship has reached this stage yet, but it's really his parents. And I'm just like, what the hell? It's like the most awkward conversation of my entire life. Thankfully, it ends after about 4 minutes, and Jerry takes his phone out, and he's like, oh my God, it's the funniest stuff ever. Listen, we get back to L.A., we need to all go out to dinner, all of us together. Let me get your info. So I'm writing his info down, we're exchanging info, and I know in my head this dinner is never, ever, ever going to happen. Not because Jerry O'Connell doesn't want it to happen. I think it's quite clear. He most definitely wants this dinner to happen. But because, like I said, Jerry is about 6'2", gets passed for being a fat kid, and his wife is 6 feet tall. Again, she was Mystique in X-Men, right? Like, really good-looking people. And I'm me, and my wife is very pretty, but she's sort of pale, has similar colored hair, and she's about this tall. Again, so I can trust her. And I have this nightmare that we're all going to go out to dinner. And then like 3 weeks later, I'm going to look at Us Magazine. There's going to be a picture of all four of us with the caption, Jerry and Rebecca participate in the couples edition of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And I know I can never live that down. So I'm like, no, this dinner is not going to happen. So then a couple weeks later, I'm on Carson Daly, primo 2 a.m. slot. And I'm in the dressing room. I'm not freaking out this time. Everything's normal. And I'm there with my wife and my buddy Dave. And I'm looking at the wall. And on the wall is a picture of Jerry O'Connell. And my wife's like, listen, you have got to send him an email. You are never going to find another non-weird, non-creepy opportunity to send this man an email. You have to do it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. So I take my phone out, and I'm like, hey, Jerry, I don't know if you remember me. My name's Christian. We were on Conan together a couple weeks ago. Anyways, I'm going to be on Carson Daly tonight, and I'm in the dressing room. There's a picture of you in here. Thought it was kind of funny. Christian, send. Boop. Awesome. I'm TiVoing it right now. Jerry. And this is September 2009. So I'm like, oh my God, in 9 months, it's from goofing around with Miles on the internet to potentially having to get a restraining order against my fat kid hero. The world moves pretty fast. And so from there, the book then went on to be published in the UK, where it sold well. Believe it or not, there's a lot of white people there. The book did exceptionally well in Australia. Again, a lot of white people there. And I was brought in to talk at the Sydney Opera House. Like it was pretty insane. And the book was translated into Dutch. Now, this is particularly interesting because the American and Australian and British covers all the same, right? The white thumbs up, which I call the white gang sign. You know, like, eh. It's like how we identify each other. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's like, yeah, I know that guy. But not the Dutch. Apparently, maybe it's a dirty gesture there. I don't know. Their edition of Stuffen, Witten, Pippen, look, I don't know. I don't speak Dutch, right? But their edition had a mirror on the cover. So when you hold it up, you're like, oh, Stuff Web. Oh. Yeah, I'll take this. I'll take this. Very clever people, the Dutch. And then this has legitimately happened. This was actually released 3 weeks ago. I'm not kidding. The book was translated into Japanese. And the title of the book in Japan is A Guide to the American White. I could not have written a better joke than that if I had tried. A Guide to the American White. And I have this fantasy, though. Every single day, I have this fantasy that somehow the book is going to become a textbook for, like, Japanese business English, you know? And so I have this dream that I'm going to be at LAX and see these Japanese businessmen getting out of the terminal and being like, what is organic coffee? And then during the business meeting, they'll be like, oh, Frisbee sports? And the guy's like, yeah, I'm on an ultimate team, right? And, like, somehow I create a trade imbalance between the two countries. So pretty big dreams there, you know. So we'll see. Fingers are crossed. And then last year, I took the book and I optioned it to Fox Television to become a television show. And I wrote a pilot with Imagine Entertainment, who are the same people who produced Arrested Development. And it was a really awesome idea. It was the wrong kind of white guy learning how to be the right kind of white guy from a black guy. And it was really funny and really sharp, but then Fox was like, we're going to do a show about a brewery. All right, thanks, bye-bye, click, done. Show died right there, like 8 months of work out the window, but that's just how it goes. No problem. It was a really fun process to get to do, and it was great. But then, along the way, there was one heartbreaking moment. And it came as a result of Miss Oprah Winfrey. Not Oprah herself, but circumstances surrounding her show. I'll tell you what happened. Oprah was doing an episode called Things That Make Me Laugh. And she called Random House and said, they want to talk about your book on this episode. Do we have permission to show it? Random House was like, yes, you have permission to show it. We're going to send a whole box of books to the audience. Everything's there. They call me and tell me, they're like, Christian, Oprah is going to talk about your book on her show. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to own a house in California. Oh my God, this is incredible. This is amazing. I really need to call some ex-girlfriends. And I'm just like, I'm freaking out, and I'm just like, I can't believe it. Like, this is going to change everything. Like, Oprah is going to give me a stamp of approval. And as a white person, getting Oprah's stamp of approval is like amazing. Like, if I could get her to tattoo me, you know what I mean, with something that said like one of the good ones, you know what I mean? I'd be so happy. I'd get that there and like an Obama one over here, and I would be set for life. So I'm just like, I'm going to be approved by Oprah. This is going to be amazing. So I'm telling everybody, I'm like, yeah, it's going to be on Oprah. It's going to be on Oprah. It's going to be on Oprah. And I'm getting the TiVo's all ready. I'm all excited. Everything's great. And then literally 2 minutes before the show goes on the air, I get a call. They're like, Christian, I have good news and bad news. I'm like, all right, what's the good news? They go, they love the book. They talked about the book on the show for 20 minutes. And I'm like, yes! I'm just freaking out. And they go, what's the bad news? And they're like, yeah, see, in television, if you talk about something for 20 minutes, you either have to run the whole segment or none of it. And they're going to run none of it. And so I watched the show, and I'm just like, I'm thinking to myself, they got to be wrong. They got to be lying. The book's going to show up somehow. Like, this is a mistake. This is a mistake. I watch it, nothing. And the guests were George Lopez, Monique, and Dane Cook. And at one point in the episode, towards the end, Monique was telling a story about exercising, and she starts doing these squats, and she walks into the audience doing squats, and George Lopez wants to go into the audience too, so he walks into the audience, he's spraying perfume all over the place, and Dane Cook's left on stage, and he doesn't know what to do. He's not going to walk into the audience, so he reaches over, and he grabs the copy of Stuff White People Like, and starts reading it on stage. And I'm just screaming at the TV, talk about the book! Talk about the book! And then for like 2 weeks, my Facebook profile was the screen capture where you could see my book in the same shot as Oprah's head. You know what I mean? It was like, it really happened. And they didn't talk about the book. And then after the show, I went on the Oprah website, and I went to the forums, and I was like, hey, does anyone know what book that was that Dane Cook was reading on stage? It looked like it was really funny, and I think Oprah was kind of into it too. And I hit refresh, nothing. And then like the thread underneath was, isn't Monique funny? Like 10,000 responses underneath. And I was like, damn it. So close. And one of the other things that happened that was interesting about the whole phenomenon of the site getting popular was a lot of spin-off sites started to emerge. So we had stuff come up like stuff black people like, stuff academics like, stuff Asians like, stuff Latinos like, stuff Hollywood assistants like, stuff unemployed people like, stuff Hill people like, stuff Europeans like, stuff Australians like, etc. Go on and on and on. And a lot of them were pretty well done. The Australians actually did one called Stuff Bogans Like. And it's hard to say what the translation is. Bogans sort of like frat boyish a little. It's hard to say exactly what it is. But they also created a site called Stuff Goths Hate that just redirected back to the Stuff Bogans Like website. I was like, 2 for 1, very clever, Australia. And someone actually made a site, a brilliant person made a site called White Stuff People Like. And the entries were like sugar and cocaine and plaster. And I was like, damn it, man. Damn it, I could have had 2. And so these sites just kept coming. And some of them got book deals. Stuff Midwesterners like got a book deal. Stuff Christians like got a book deal. Stuff Hipsters Hate got a book deal. So like this idea that I started as a joke with my friend, like it's become a legitimate thing. It was pretty incredible. But, you know, most of the stuff I'm telling you, all this, the spin-offs, even the Oprah thing, it's still pretty awesome, right? Like everything's been great. And I wish I could say that every part of this, of the whole writing process, of the whole getting popular thing was awesome. It was great, but there have been some drawbacks. First of all, the drawback is I write about race on the internet. I don't know if you guys have spent much time on the internet, but here's how it works. If you post a video to YouTube of a giggling baby, like 30 seconds of a giggling baby, put it on YouTube. Comment number 1, aw, what a cute baby. Comment number 2, fuck that white baby. Wait 3 seconds, hit refresh, full-on race war over a giggling baby, right? So you can imagine what happens when you actually write a site that actually talks about race. You get some pretty angry people writing in. And so I actually had someone write in. They're pretty upset. Dear asshole. For the record, not a good way to start your correspondence. I hate your stupid racist website. I hope you go to jail and get raped and get AIDS and die slowly so you can watch your whole family die of cancer. This was because I had the audacity to say white people liked yoga and expensive sandwiches. Welcome to the internet. It's fantastic. But the site brought about a lot of rage. A lot of rage. People would get so angry with me. Most of the anger came from people who, what they saw as a double standard. They would say, you know what, man, if you recycle stuff black people like, it would be racist. Yep. I don't know what your point is. I wrote a site called Stuff White People Like, dude. What do you, like, I'm Canadian with red hair. I think I know what I'm talking about here. I get a pass, right? And he's like, okay, I guess that makes sense. But still, man, it's bullshit, you know, man. It's like, it's okay to make fun of white people, but you can't make fun of black people or Asians or Latinos. That's unfair. That's a double standard, man. That's unfair. Now, I always say to him, my standard response to this is, it is always okay to make fun of white people. In fact, it's always a good idea to make fun of white people. I got 2 books out of making fun of white people. You can at least get a dinner party invite out of it. So I strongly recommend it. And he's like, well, why? Why is it okay to make fun of white people, man? This is so unfair. Why? And I'm like, well, here's why. Currently, there is no ethnic slur for white people that hurts. Okay? If you were to call a white person a cracker or a honky, we would love it. Just be like, ooh, is this what oppression feels like? Say it again. Oh. We're like the priest in the Da Vinci Code. You know what I mean? Like, we love it. We love it. And that is because ethnic slurs, where they come from history, more importantly. They come from the wounds of the past that have not been healed. And for the fact of the matter is, white people don't have one of those. And this is why we all love to get history degrees so much, because it always has a happy ending for us. I mean, look, the potato famine, yeah, it was harsh, don't get me wrong. It was a bad time. But it worked out great. You know what I mean? Like, I had potatoes for lunch. Like, we're chilling. We're redheaded people are doing just fine. It works out for us. So that is why it is always okay to make fun of white people. So now that we're talking about it, we need to think about some of the other stuff that comes out from stuff white people like. So what I'm writing about. And so people would also get upset with me. They would say, you know what, man, this is kind of bullshit. You know, I'm black. I like yoga. I like, fixed gear bicycles. What does that mean? That's unfair. Assuming that the title was stuff only white people can like. And that's not true at all. And to illustrate this point, I want to talk to you a little bit about my high school, the point that I'm trying to make here. So I went to a high school in Toronto called Jarvis Collegiate. It's a very interesting high school in the middle of the city. To give you an idea just how interesting a high school it was, I was a 2-year varsity starter on the football team at offensive line. Because when your high school is made up predominantly of Chinese and Sri Lankan immigrants, I am one of the more obese men at the school. This was my high school. Our football field wasn't regulation size, so we had to dress at the high school and then walk through the city to a public park to play our games. Our practice field also doubled as a helicopter landing pad for the hospital across the street. And perhaps most importantly, the fenced-in area around the field was the main drag for transvestite prostitutes in the city of Toronto. And we practiced in the mornings and they worked nights. And yes, they were prostitutes, but they were also Canadian, so they had a sense of humor. And every time we bent over, they whistled at us. Now, as a 16-year-old boy, this causes you to come to grips with your sexuality awfully quickly because you realize you have options. For the record, I did not have sex with any transvestite prostitutes in high school. And so this was my high school. You get this mix. And it was really strange. So we had literally an amazing mix of a lot of first-generation immigrants, people who were third-generation Chinese-Canadian, third-generation Indo-Canadian. And what was incredible was we literally had every ethnic rivalry in the world at my high school. We also had a gym teacher with a political science degree. And you know where this is going. During wrestling, he would match the ethnic rivalries up against each other. So he would pit like a Tamil against a Sri Lankan and like a Serb and a Croat against each other. And I'm not going to lie, when Ned and Marco squared off, it was awesome. And this was my high school. So you have this mix of, you have upper middle class white kids, you have first generation, you have third generation. It was district for a housing project, all coming together at the same school. And what was very interesting about this school was, we had this mix. We had these different students. So there was a student that I knew, one of my friends. His name was Long. Long was third generation Chinese Canadian. And Long was the guy who'd break out shorts in February. Long wore Teva sandals every day of the year. He had a big backpack. He liked jam bands. You know what I mean? He liked camping. He had one of those weird hemp necklaces with like a weird bead right here, He played ultimate frisbee. He cut school to play hacky sack, right? Chinese Canadian. And you better believe every single day, Long got called a banana or a Twinkie. Yellow on the outside, white on the inside. And the fact of the matter was, if you liked anything that was on this list at my school, if you liked anything on this list, you were accused of acting white. So you were called a banana or a Twinkie or an Oreo or a coconut or whatever food stuff related to your skin color and had a white center. And that's what you get accused of. But at the end of the day, Long, in spite of his love of camping, which kayaking, I don't even do that. In spite of his love for these things, Long was not trying to be white. You have to understand that. Long was very, very proud to be Chinese. He was proud of his grandparents. He was proud of his parents. He was very proud to be Chinese. Long was just rich. And the point I want to make here is you don't have to be white to be white. You just have to be rich. And so there it is. That is the big statement that I wanted to make with stuff white people like. That's where it came from. This all came from Toronto, but it's something to think about. Because the fact of the matter is, this book is proof that upper, middle class liberal and white are interchangeable. They are completely interchangeable words. The fact that I could put this list together of all of these things that imply overeducation, that imply wealth, that imply the ability to sort of have these creative freedoms backed up by a financial means. All of these things, I put them in the list, I call them white, and people recognize them as white. That's the statement. That's something to start thinking about. The fact is, if you join this class, if you are able, through whatever means, and you're not white, and you start doing these things, you start taking unpaid internships, and you start liking acoustic covers, and reusable shopping bags, and plaid, and the ACLU, and premium juice, you will be accused of acting white. And that is the big thing that I wanted to get out there, to get thinking about white privilege and what it means. And what's been amazing about this, too, is the privilege that we have as white people and of this class. And remember, this is as much about class as it is about race. It's been amazing where we've gone with this privilege. So what we were expected to do, and what we like to tell ourselves and lie about ourselves, is that our economic freedom, brought about by our parents' wealth and our grandparents' wealth and so forth, has enabled us to become above money. Right? We don't compete over money. I mean, we're not money grubbers anymore. That keeping up with the Joneses mentality has long, long passed, right? But what's amazing is we're white people. We're very competitive. And so what we've done is we've taken all of these amazing altruistic things and we've turned them into competition. So, for example, white people compete over who's the most vegetarian. We compete to see who can cut the most things out of their diet, How do you explain to someone who's starving you have a gluten allergy? And we've turned them into competitions. Who has the smallest carbon footprint? Who has the most gifted child? Who has done the most volunteer tourism? And we are still desperately, desperately trying to prove that we are better than the white person next to us. That is what we do. And there is a privilege associated with that. And that's one of the points I want to make, that we think about this. That there is a privilege that allows us to have the freedom to take unpaid internships, to follow careers in the arts, to get a PhD in the humanities. Sorry, I have half of one. And you need to start thinking about it. And what's amazing is this competitive nature that we have. Not only have we applied it to these altruistic things like vegetarianism and carbon footprints and shrinking the environment, shrinking all of that stuff, we've applied it to race. And what I mean by this is white people have gotten competitive about fixing racism. And our solution to fix racism is to try to collect minorities like they were Pokemons. The idea that somehow if we have a friend of every single race, then we are officially, legally declared not racist. So now we collect ethnic friends as a solution. And so these were the two things of the 2 points that I could have made coming out of stuff white people like. One is to just think about the status of white privilege, that a left-wing class, literally the most progressive class in history, is still so overwhelmingly white that when I put out a list like this, you instantly recognize it as white. And there's a privilege to go with that. And think about that privilege. And the other one is we need to stop demanding so much recognition for doing the right thing. Like, as white people, we won't do the right thing unless we get a rubber bracelet out of it. You know what I mean? Like, what's the point of giving to this charity if I'm not going to get a rubber bracelet? I have 10, right? We need to stop that. And I want to just point out that this competition and this arrogance is not helping. Again, look, I'm Canadian. I'm left-wing. I didn't have a choice. And at the end of the day, look, I see the left, the class that I'm writing about, and it's frustrating because so many of the things that they want, ultimately, things like universal health care for people, help for the poor, these are good things. But the way that we're going about trying to convince people they're good things is all wrong. We are so unbelievably obnoxious. When we roll up with our Prius with a coexist bumper sticker on the back, it's obnoxious. And why should we listen to someone like that? At the end of the day, we spend so much time trying to convince Portland that we're right, Portland, Oregon, when we really need to be convincing the Tea Party that we're right. And so if we could just on the left take a time to just step back from this snobbishness and this smugness and actually sort of open our minds a little bit, I think we could really start to make some progress. I mean, I'm not going to do it, but it would be fantastic if you guys could do it. I'm already gone. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a fallen soldier in the war. You keep going. I'm just going to stay here with my quinoa. That's how I'm doing it. But it would be fantastic. So I'm going to read to you a couple entries from Stuff White People Like, and then we will open it up to a Q&A. But I have a few of my favorite entries in here that sort of describe some of the things that I've done. So a very quick one that I like is number 87, outdoor performance clothes. This would be North Face, REI, things like that. I have told people before that it is actually a requirement for every university in the Midwest, for girls at least, that they show up at university with black stretch pants, Uggs, and a North Face fleece. Apparently, there might be a problem with a girl at a Midwestern college who doesn't have those, but that hasn't happened yet. Number 87, outdoor performance clothes. As white people get older, they like to have clear boundaries between their professional and their personal lives. They don't mind talking about their personal life at work, but they hate talking about work when they're enjoying a weekend or vacation. But with BlackBerries and laptops, white people can be working anywhere at any time. So how do you know when they're off the clock? It's easy. Just check their clothes. When white people aren't working, they generally like to wear outdoor performance clothes. The top suppliers of these garments and accessories include North Face, REI, Mountain Equipment Co-op, Columbia Sportswear, and Patagonia. When you see white people wearing these brands, it's important that you do not discuss business matters. Instead, you should say things like, "Where did you get that fleece?" And "What's that thing holding your keys to your shorts?" White people will be more than happy to talk to you about their sustainably produced possessions. But the main reason white people like these clothes is that they allow them to believe that at any moment they could find themselves with a Thule rack on the top of their car headed to a national park. It could be 4 p.m. on a Saturday when they might get the call, "Hey man, you know what we need to do? Kayak, then camping. Right now, I'm on my way to get you. There is no time to change clothes." Though it is unlikely they will ever receive this call, white people hate the idea of missing an opportunity to enjoy outdoor activities just because they weren't wearing the right clothes. If you plan on spending part of your weekend with a white person, it is strongly recommended that you purchase a jacket or some sort of high-performance t-shirt, which is like a regular t-shirt, just a lot more expensive. Some of the other ones along the way, New Balance shoes. Another one of my favorites here, number 101, scarves. White people's body temperatures do not operate on logical or consistent principles. And because of this, white people are often forced to wear clothing combinations that may seem strange. One popular example is the performance vest, which solves the age-old problem of cold chest, hot arms. Another common combination is shorts and a sweatshirt, which brings about comfort when your upper body's chilly, but your lower half is sweltering. But without a doubt, the one piece of clothing that helps regulate white body temperature in all situations is the scarf. During winter months, it's no surprise to find white people all bundled up with scarves around their neck. It just makes sense. But even as the weather warms up and the other layers start to fall off, the scarf remains. It's not uncommon to see a white person in jeans, a sweater, and a scarf. In fact, it's not a rare occurrence to see a white person in a t-shirt, jeans, and a scarf. That's right, a thin cotton t-shirt paired with a scarf to enable maximum temperature control in bars and places with air conditioning. But not all white people wear the scarves for temperature reasons. No. A well-made scarf can be an essential part of a white person's ensemble, allowing for the all-important differentiation from other white people wearing the exact same clothes, thus enabling one to be picked out of a crowd for dating or mocking purposes. Oh, I like the guy in the white American Apparel shirt. Which one? There's 8. The guy with the keffiyeh. Oh, yeah, you're right. He does look smarter and more political than the other guys. He's clearly more sensitive to wind, so he's probably more sensitive in general. You should totally date him. But in addition to making up a key part of the white person's wardrobe, scarves also function as a vital pillar of the white gift economy. Knitted scarves can be created with relative ease, so many white people, especially women, like to knit them for friends and lovers. For this reason alone, if you find yourself needing a new scarf but not a long-term relationship, dating a white woman might be the easiest and most cost-effective solution. Practical advice. And so the new book, I'll be very quick with this one. The new book is Whiter Shades of Pale. It has a continuation of the entries from the first one, things like appearing to enjoy classical music, photography, sweaters, small batch soda, black music that black people don't listen to anymore, Bob Marley, not vaccinating children, swimming, Google, all the sort of stuff's in here. And then there's little entries on each city, the white cities, which I define as any city I want to live in and can't afford. But the entry, and this is where I got in a little bit of trouble, some people get upset, the entry for D.C. is actually the Obama family, because I like to make the case that while Obama's our first black president, he's also our first white president for the following reasons. He went to an Ivy League school. He's a lawyer. He drives a hybrid. He planted an organic garden at the White House. And he has the one accessory that all white people want: black children. Thank you very much. Now, if you guys have questions, there's a mic set up in the middle of the floor. If you can't get back to that, just raise your hand, and I'll repeat the question to the microphone for everybody. If you have questions about white people that you need answered, I'm the guy. No questions about white people. Yes. Do I have a Twitter? Yeah, Clander. That's it. All one word, Clander. Today I was putting in Twitter stuff about the iPad 2. I was just upset. I was like, that's it, Apple, you win. Tech lust overcomes logic and reason. And the other one is O'Hare's Airport. The F terminal smells like melted butter. The whole thing. And then I put hashtag Midwest FTW. Yes? Good question. I'm a white person. How much of this list do I incorporate into my own life? I incorporate virtually all of it, except for the outdoor shit. I do not do that. Camping, kayaking, that whole world, no, not for me. I have a long-standing belief that our ancestors literally died to get out of nature. You know what I mean? They were just sitting around being like, this is terrible. Like, I have dysentery, this animal's gonna kill me. I'm pooping in the ground? Like, why can't someone fix this? And we did. We fixed it. We created cities and the internet. And we're just going to go right back in? No, I don't think so. I honor the memories of my ancestors by staying the hell out of nature for as long as possible. So that's the only thing I don't do. Not for me. Pretty much everything else, though. Yeah. Yes. Which item on the list have I received the most flack for? Without a doubt, first book, entry number 11, written by Filipino Miles, Asian girls, by far. The most offensive thing in the entire book. Miles is a proudly offensive Filipino. That's what I've gotten the most flack for, without a doubt. Not even close. That one's, I think there's something like 10,000 comments on the post on the blog right now. Most of them furious. All right, I'm going to read it. Once again, I don't think I can stress this enough. Post written by Miles Valentine, Filipino, awesome, outwardly racist. Against Asian people. And white people. Number 11, Asian girls. Miles Filipino wrote this. 95% of white males have, at one point in their lives, experienced yellow fever. Many factors have contributed to this phenomenon, such as guilt from head taxes, internment camps, dropping the nuclear bomb, and the Vietnam War. Miles Valentine, once again. The exchange works both ways, as Asian girls have a tendency to date white guys. White girls never go for Asian guys. Bruce Lee and Paul Kariya's dad are the only recorded instances in modern history. Paul Kariya is a Canadian hockey player. Asian girls often do this to get back at their strict traditional fathers. There's also the option of dating black guys, but they know deep down that this would give their non-English speaking grandmothers a heart attack. White men love Asian women so much they'll go to extremes like stating Sandra Oh is sexy, teaching English in Asia, playing in a co-ed volleyball league, or attending institutions such as UBC, dubbed the University of a Billion Chinese, or UCLA, the University of Caucasians Living Among Asians. Another factor that draws white guys to Asian women is that white women are jealous of them. Take, for instance, the fact that Asian women well into their 30s and 40s retain teen or college girl looks without the help of Botox, yoga, or a trendy diet. Asian women also avoid key white women characteristics such as having a midlife crisis, divorce, and hobbies that don't involve taking care of the children. Now, this next part, I'm going to have to explain in a minute. When a white guy and an Asian girl marry, they produce hybrids that are aesthetically pleasing but often very annoying. Give me a second. This practice is also a means by which the white people can catch up to the Asian peoples in the population race, as the hybrids often act white rather than Asian. Miles Valentine, Filipino. The part where the interesting thing is where he said people who are part white and part Asian are aesthetically pleasing and very annoying. When we were writing this, we didn't think anyone was going to read it. And at the time, he was obsessed with this girl he worked with who was half white and half Chinese. And so he was talking about her. And then when the book came about, Raymond's like, no, you can't change a word. And I'm like, all right. And so it's been in there ever since. So again, Miles wrote that, not me. Most flack, by far. So, yeah. Can't stress that enough. Yes? Remember when I was on Conan and I said, hey, I really had to call an ex-girlfriend? She was a Chinese girl from San Francisco. She broke my heart, though, man. She was the worst. But yes, you don't have a, yeah. All right, next question. Please, next questions. Help me break this. Yes. Which entry is my favorite? There's an entry in the first one called Knowing What's Best for Poor People that I find particularly hilarious. It's something white people like. But I think the entry on scarves still cracks me up. I have an entry in the new book on heirloom tomatoes, that white people like heirloom tomatoes, because they're unique and they have a bloodline, and an heirloom tomato is like the vegetable equivalent of a white gifted child. So I like that entry a lot. And then I also have one I liked on white people like foreign military fitness regimes. You know what I mean? Like Krav Maga and like kettlebells and capoeira and all that sort of stuff. And I like those entries. Those were pretty funny to me. And photography, because it talks about how white people take pictures of their food all the time. And I do that a lot. Yeah. Against a comb? Yeah, man. Curls. That's what I have against it. And also, I'm ridiculously lazy when it comes to cutting my hair, and I'm not going to style it. This is not going to happen. Yep. Okay, so, interesting. I found out that the site was linked to from a white supremacist forum once. Their comments were interesting. They had suggestions for the list that included ethnic purity as something white people like, living with my own kind as something that white people like. That was interesting. But more often than not, the people I'm not talking about, conservatives, they love it. They're like, this is awesome. Like, finally, you're sticking it to the left. Because the fact of the matter is that one of the things we have that's a problem is that the right is terrible at making fun of the left. They can't do it. They never get it right. That's why there's no Daily Show on Fox News, right? I'm just like, I'm not trying to say that to like look how awesome the left is. I'm just saying that they don't get it right. And the reason they have trouble getting it right is oftentimes when the right is making fun of the left, they use just so much hyperbole, you know what I mean? To make fun of the left, like, oh, let's let everyone out of jail and have a rape party or something. You know what I mean? Like, they don't, like, that's not, you need for the humor to work, there needs to be a kernel of truth for it to really hit. And so they have not done a very good job with that. And so when I did this, I had a lot of people on the right being like, that's great. You need to call them out on this. Because for the most part, the left doesn't call itself out on doing stuff like this. And so I also got people on the left who called me Dick Cheney Jr. and just like hated me, thought, how dare you ever criticize things like vegetarianism and things like that. And I'm like, sorry, some of you assholes need to be criticized, right? And so I got a pretty good mix. But then I also get people who are like, you know what, man, this is bullshit, this site. I'm white. I don't like this stuff. You know, this is racist. You know what I mean? I'm like, are you upset that a stereotype doesn't apply to you? That's what bothers you? He's like, yeah, that's... It's so racist that there's a stereotype that doesn't apply to you. I'm like, welcome to every ethnicity ever. Have fun in the 21st century, sir. So, yeah, I've had some people who get it, some people who don't, but yeah, it's a mixed reaction. You definitely have people on the left who hate it, and then you have people on the right who hate it, but people on the right who like it, too. They're like, it's about time someone started attacking some of this stuff and stopped accepting it as just being, oh, it can never be so sacred, it can never be attacked. Yeah. Most of them are just like, oh, damn it, I am white. It's like I was trying to pretend I wasn't, Then I stayed in that hostel, and everything changed. But for the most part, the comment I get mostly from black people is they'll say things like, we've been saying this for 30 years. Why didn't one of us write it down? I just apologize for that. But then I have a lot of people who are just, they get it. They get the humor right away. I mean, if you are not white and you grew up in an upper middle class liberal environment, you immediately know what I'm talking about right away. And so for the most part, they absolutely get it all the way through, and they enjoy it. Mostly it's white people who are angry. That's normally the case. Was there another hand over here? Yep. No. All of them made it at random. It was amazing. One of the crazy things about going from blog to book is that you created a voice and an audience without any help from anyone, and it resonated. Like, there's a lot of luck. I never forget that. So much luck. But they didn't want to change that. They were like, look, what you're doing is great. We have no need to change it. So they didn't edit. They didn't change it. They just fixed typos, mostly, which was pretty awesome, actually. Yeah. Fox owns it for perpetuity throughout the universe. But I would like to do a show, a Stuff White People Like show about a white guy who goes to teach English abroad and then comes back and has to teach ESL. And the students are like, no, we speak English. You need to explain white people to us. You know what I mean? Like a Welcome Back Kotter, but we'll see if I'll ever get the chance to do that. Yep. Did I bike here? No. I'm about to make a very sad confession. In August of 2010, I purchased my first automobile.
Was it a Prius?
It was a used Prius. And thus a smaller carbon footprint than a new Prius. But I needed it because I got a job writing for this TV show, and the job was in Santa Monica, and I live in Koreatown in Los Angeles, and it was 11 miles. And the hours of a TV writer are 9 in the morning till 11 at night, and I wasn't going to do 11 miles at 11 at night. I couldn't do it. So I broke down and I bought a used Prius. Yeah. She doesn't think I'm all that funny. First of all, she thinks it's great. I mean, I guess it's a little weird for her sometimes, but she thinks it's pretty great. But yeah, she's a hard one to make laugh, that's for sure. Yep. Do I have any? I live in Los Angeles. I can't afford to have children. It's very, very expensive to have children in Los Angeles. No, I don't have kids. Anybody else? Yes. People, I can stop with it. I have a front brake. I'm not an idiot, right? Like, I put a front brake on it. It wasn't that hard. Sidewalks are empty in Los Angeles. I don't know if you know that. And it was just dealing with all the cars, and they never move that fast because they're always stuck in traffic. And so, yeah, it wasn't that tough. Although I was hit twice. It happens, you know. What speeds was I going when I got hit? Well, I was going, it was like, I only have one speed on the bike. Okay, both times it was basically, I was going this way, and a car was turning right and didn't see me. You know what I mean? So like that kind of stuff. Once it was a head-on onto the hood, and the other one was more of like a graze, where they just knocked me off and then just drove away. And so, good old LA hospitality. Yeah. Tight beard, by the way. Your beard is stronger than my beard. All the way in, full coverage. What type of bike do I ride? I got a Mercier Kylo TT that I completely customized on my own. Before that bike, every bike I'd ever ridden has been stolen. Thanks. Growing up in the city, even my big wheel was stolen when I was a kid. So tons and tons of bikes stolen. But yeah, that's what I've been riding. Yep. Oh, dog. Come on. You got to understand, white people, we like dogs more than we like our own children. This is how it operates. Because the truth is that, like, look, kids are going to turn 13, right? You know what happens at 13. Not a dog. Dog's going to love you forever. So we like our dogs more than our kids. And so dog all the way. Preferably get a rescue dog, so that you can rub it in the face of people with purebred dogs. You know what I mean? Like, you having that dog killed another dog. Just think about that for a minute. And that'll help for sure. So it's all about using your dog to make you look better. So dog all the way. Yes? My Imagine reader for when I write is the 4 guys I wrote for when I started the site. That was it. Like, I think as a writer, especially when you write comedy, if you are writing for someone, a perceived audience, what you'll do is you'll be condescending. You mean, I think you're going to find this funny because you're an idiot or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be there. And so I wrote for my friends. I was like, this is what I think's funny. I think they're going to think it's funny. And I got lucky that sense of humor translated on a larger level. But I still write, and I still value their opinions. They're the editors that I trust the most in the world. They'll tell me, like, this isn't funny. This is funny. And you go from there. And so it's those 4 guys that I still write for. 2? No. Only one is shorter than me. It's 2 Filipinos and 1 guy who's half Chinese and half white. That's my audience. A lot of Filipinos. Yep. Why did I move to this? I moved to the U.S. for grad school. I went to the University of Arizona, where I got a degree in drinking. I always wanted to move to the U.S. I mean, ever since I was a kid. I mean, when I was at McGill for my undergrad, I did literature and American history. It's fantastic. And L.A., when I dropped out of grad school, I wanted to get as far away from grad school as humanly possible, and that is the city of Los Angeles. But realistically, why I moved to Los Angeles was when we dropped out. So I met my wife in grad school halfway through a PhD program. We dropped out of school. There we were in Indiana University. We had her Jetta, which was the white car before the Prius. We had her Jetta, and we had no debt because we were teaching assistants, and we could go wherever we wanted. And I wanted to see if I could ever make a go of a living as a comedy writer, something I dreamt about doing my entire life. And so let's go to LA, take a shot. If it doesn't work out, it didn't work out, and we just move on with our life from there. And somehow I got lucky, and it worked out. Oh, wait, yeah. One more, sorry. Wait, white people feel guilty? Give them a history book. I mean, like, it certainly doesn't hurt. Yeah, that would pretty much cover it. Book about the Opium Wars, about, the Trail of Tears, any of those things. It's not hard. Like, making a white person feel guilty is like making a dog hungry. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a difficult thing to do at all. Just, one of those things, and you'll be fine. Ask them how much their jeans cost. That'll probably make them feel guilty, too. Be like, and how much did you donate to charity last year? That'll be another good one, too. It's like, well, the jeans were $500, and I donated $8 to Kiva. All right. Well, there will be a reception, and I'll be signing books out there. If you had any questions about white people that were not appropriate for a larger audience, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But thank you so much for having me here. This was fantastic. Thank you, guys, so much.